My name's Tyler Monroe. I'm 30 years old, and the last time I saw my father, he handed me a cashier's check for $250,000 and told me never to speak to him again. That was 8 years ago. I didn't cash it. I was 22, fresh out of undergrad, sitting across from my parents at a steakhouse in downtown Dallas. It was supposed to be a celebratory dinner. I'd graduated summa cum laude from their alma mater, survived 4 years of pretending I gave a damn about business ethics and campaign finance. What they didn't know was that I'd spent every weekend sneaking away to the Black Box Theater 2 blocks from campus. Lighting design, stage management, bit parts, and student-run drag shows. That was where I felt alive. Not boardrooms, not donor luncheons, light cues and curtain calls. So I told them I'd turned down the law internship at Reed and Harker, that I'd accepted a residency at a performing arts co-op in New York, that I was moving next week. My mother set her wine glass down so carefully it didn't even clink. My father didn't move at all. He just blinked. Once. Then leaned forward, hands folded like he was closing a real estate deal. "Is this about your lifestyle?" I almost laughed. Of course it was, but not in the way he meant. Not just that I was gay, which had always been tolerated but never spoken in our house. It was the deeper offense. I was choosing to live on my own terms. I said, "No, it's about the life I actually want." That's when he took the check out of his coat pocket. It was already filled out. Preemptive. Like he'd known, somehow. "You'll need this. You're going to find out very quickly what the world is like without our protection." I looked at that piece of paper, and for a moment, I swear my hand almost reached for it. Then something in me hardened. "I'm not for sale," I said. "Keep it." That night, I packed 2 duffel bags and left the only home I'd ever known. My bank account had $1,237 in it. My car was a rusted-out Civic with a cracked windshield. My safety net was gone, and for the first time in my life, I could actually breathe. But freedom is expensive. New York didn't work out. The co-op lost its lease 3 weeks after I arrived. I couldn't afford rent. I couch surfed, sold my laptop, waited tables at a sports bar where the manager called me princess and docked pay if I wore nail polish. I ended up in Vegas because a friend of a friend had a brother with a couch. I slept there for 5 months, shared a room with 2 cats and a drag queen named Bunny Knife who snored like a chainsaw but made the best grilled cheese I've ever had. I worked every job I could find. Barback, janitor, parking lot attendant. At night, I helped Bunny rig lights for basement shows and built sets out of thrift store furniture. And slowly, I started writing again. A 1-act, then a cabaret show, then something more ambitious. Vegas had this undercurrent, messy, weird, electric. It didn't care who your daddy was. If you could deliver, you earned your spot. I saved every tip. Bought an old laundromat off East Charleston for dirt cheap. Converted it into a bar/theater. No signage. Word of mouth only. I called it The Basement. We opened on a Friday night with folding chairs and a $40 fog machine. Half the cast forgot their lines. The sound cut out twice. And it was magic. We sold out every weekend after that. By 29, I had a liquor license, a performance roster, a loyal crew, and finally, a place that felt like mine. Which is why, when I checked the booking calendar last week and saw the name Honorable Richard Monroe under a private rental, I laughed so hard I spilled my coffee. They'd booked the basement, my father, my mother. The same people who cut me off, called my work shameful, told the family I'd had a mental break. The same people who'd warned donors not to associate with me. They were coming here for a private fundraising event. They had no idea I owned it, and I had no intention of staying quiet. Because if they wanted to play pretend inside my house, I was ready to raise the curtain. The truth is, the basement was never supposed to survive. When I signed the lease on that busted old laundromat, the floor was sinking in one corner, and the smell of mildew could slap you across the face. The plumbing rattled like it was haunted, and the previous tenant left behind a washer full of something that might have once been socks. but it was mine. My name was on the papers. Tyler Monroe, no trust fund, no backing, no inheritance, just a busted knuckle from trying to fix the lighting rig myself and a loan from a friend I still haven't fully repaid. I poured everything into that place. Not just money, me, my pain, my anger, my stubborn hope that maybe, just maybe, I could build something real from the pieces my family shattered. I slept there for the first 6 months. On a futon backstage, behind a curtain we used to separate performers from a busted HVAC unit that groaned like a dying walrus. Some nights I didn't sleep at all. Just sat on the stage staring out at the empty chairs, wondering if this whole thing was stupid. If I should have taken that damn check and disappeared. But the thing about people like me, the exiles, the misfits, the ones whose families pretend we don't exist, we find each other. Bunny introduced me to Marisol, a bartender who got blackballed for refusing to wear a tighter shirt. She brought her own following and mixed drinks like poetry. Then came Ty, a lighting tech who got booted from a casino gig after a manager called their pronouns too confusing. None of us had a safety net. What we had was each other, and the basement became our anchor. We ran shows on shoestring budgets, drag nights, spoken word, midnight cabarets with $5 covers and folding chairs. Every mistake was a lesson. Every sold-out night felt like a miracle. Slowly, the word spread. If you wanted to see something raw, something fearless, you came to us. I remember the first time someone called me boss. It was Ty. They needed new gel filters and asked if I could order some. I almost cried, right there in the supply closet. Not because I was anyone's boss, because for the first time in my life, I was worth being asked. By the end of year 1, we broke even. Year 2, we started making money. Not a lot, but enough to pay performers fairly. Enough to install real lights. Enough for me to stop sleeping backstage. Then came the 3rd year. The year everything cracked wide open. A small-time Vegas real estate blog did a feature on the most unlikely venues you'll fall in love with. The basement made the list. A local editor came, loved it, came again, and brought friends. Word snowballed. Suddenly we were doing weddings, private events, pop-up shows, booking weeks in advance. That's when she walked in. Lisa Reynolds. Sharp suit, silver hair, face like she'd won more battles than she'd lost. She didn't introduce herself the first night, just sat in the back corner and watched. Didn't even clap. She came back the next weekend. This time, she asked if I had time for a drink. Turned out she ran a boutique investment group. Focused on unpolished but promising community ventures. Said she wasn't looking for a franchise. She was looking for a movement. Her words, not mine. She offered funding to renovate the space. Said she believed in what we were doing, giving voice to the forgotten. I told her I didn't want to sell out. She smiled and said, "Honey, I don't want to change your show. I just want to make sure the roof doesn't fall in while it's happening." So we partnered. We fixed the roof, built a real green room, got new mics, replaced the front windows with custom glass etched with our name. The basement, no longer hidden. That year, we tripled our bookings, and I finally got to move into an actual apartment. A small loft above a tattoo parlor, but it had a washer and dryer and no rats, so I felt like royalty. For the first time, I stopped surviving and started living. Which is why, when I opened my inbox one Tuesday and saw a booking inquiry for a private fundraiser from an event management company, I almost deleted it. Then I saw the client name, Monroe Campaign Coalition, and the contact person, Eleanor Monroe, my mother. They'd rented my bar for a political fundraiser, and they still had no idea it was mine. I sat frozen, reading that email 10 times. The same people who said I was an embarrassment. The same people who told family friends I'd gone off the rails. The same people who wrote me out of their lives like I was a phase they'd outgrown. They were coming to my house, and I wasn't going anywhere. I didn't sleep the night I saw their names on the booking. I lay there in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, mentally replaying every single moment I'd tried to forget. My mother standing at the door of my childhood bedroom, arms crossed, saying, "If you leave now, don't expect to come back." My father's face, unreadable as always, handing me a check like I was a liability they were settling out of court. And now? Now they were coming into my house, sipping wine in my chairs, raising money for a campaign built on family values inside a bar that wouldn't exist if I hadn't clawed my way through their rejection. I should have canceled. Any sane person would have canceled. But I didn't. Instead, I confirmed the rental, paid my staff double to take the night off, cleared the schedule, and waited. Friday came. I got there early before the event team arrived. Walked through every corner of the basement, checking cables, dimmers, glassware, making sure the green room door locked properly. I stopped in front of the mural near the entrance, a mosaic made from broken mirror shards and cracked tiles, meant to reflect the people walking in. I'd built it with Marisol the first year we opened after her dad stopped speaking to her for coming out. We called it the wall of things that refused to disappear. I stood there for a long time. At 6:04 p.m., the first black SUV pulled up. I watched from the mezzanine. My mother stepped out, wearing navy blue like always, hair perfectly pinned. My father followed, phone in hand, speaking to someone without looking up. They didn't recognize the place. Why would they? They hadn't spoken my name in nearly a decade. I watched them walk in, the same way they used to walk into a fundraiser at the country club. Controlled, polite, already performing. Behind them came staffers, donors, volunteers in suits and pearls and fake smiles. I didn't show myself. Not yet. Instead, I watched from the shadows as they poured into my space, complimenting the edgy charm of the bar, the raw aesthetic, the gritty elegance. I watched my mother admire the chandelier I welded from scrap copper and wine bottles. I watched my father accept a cocktail from the bartender, Marisol, who didn't know who they were. She offered him our signature drink, the Exile Negroni. He smiled, said it was refreshing. I nearly laughed. Then came the part that knocked the breath from my lungs. One of the campaign interns began setting up framed photos near the stage, a collage of the Monroe family over the years. There was my older brother, shaking hands with a senator, my sister giving a speech at her prep school fundraiser, my parents at some gala I was never invited to. And then, there it was. A photo from when I was 19, the last family vacation we ever took. Me standing stiff between my siblings in a polo shirt my mother had insisted I wear. My face still round with youth. Awkward. Trying. I didn't remember that photo being taken, but what made me freeze wasn't seeing my own face. It was what happened next. My mother walked over, looked at the photo, and, without a word, slipped it behind the console table, face down. Just like that. Erased. Again, I felt my throat tighten. Heat crawled up my chest, into my jaw. I clenched the railing, stared down at the top of her head. And that's when I made my decision. I walked backstage, pulled out the old mic we use for late-night storytelling events. No one noticed me at first as I stepped onto the unlit stage, still in black jeans and a t-shirt. I stood just off center, tapped the mic once. The feedback pierced the room. Conversation stopped. Every head turned. My father narrowed his eyes. My mother's mouth opened slightly, frozen mid-expression. I smiled. "Good evening," I said. "Welcome to the basement. My name is Tyler Monroe. I own this place." The room fell dead silent. "But some of you may already know me," I added, eyes locked on my parents. "Or used to." People began glancing between us, slowly putting the pieces together. A couple interns exchanged wide-eyed looks. Someone near the bar muttered, "No way." "I wasn't supposed to be here tonight," I continued. In fact, I was never supposed to be here at all. According to my parents, I was supposed to disappear quietly. Take their money, bury who I was, and become a respectable Monroe. My father stepped forward, but I raised a hand. Not to stop him, but to claim the floor. "But I didn't disappear," I said. "I stayed. I fought. I built this from the ground up with the people you like to pretend don't exist, people you've made laws against, people you refuse to look at, even when they're standing in your own house. I walked toward the edge of the stage. And tonight, I said, you came into my space, my story, so I hope you're ready to hear it. I took a breath. Because what's about to happen next? You'll never be able to spin. And then the house lights dimmed. Music swelled from the back of the room, and Bunny Knife stepped onto the stage behind me, in full drag, in front of my parents, in front of every donor and camera in the room. Her sequined cape spelled out in gold block letters, "Not your family's shame." The room didn't breathe. Not when Bunny Knife took center stage in that gold-lettered cape. Not when the spotlight cut through the dark like a blade and landed right on her. Not even when my mother, still holding her champagne flute, finally realized this wasn't a warm-up act. Bunny stood tall, sequins blazing, makeup flawless. She gave the audience a full 3 seconds of silence, an old stage trick, before whispering into the mic, "This performance is dedicated to the forgotten child." And then the music hit. It wasn't a song anyone would have expected at a fundraiser. No upbeat swing, no jazzy background track. It was slow, orchestral, heavy. The kind of song that makes your stomach knot before a single lyric lands. She sang live, raw, each word carefully chosen, about erasure, about masks, about the price of silence when you're the one made invisible. Behind her, a projection lit up the stage. Family photos. Old ones. Some were mine. Bunny and I had put it together that afternoon. We'd dug through my archive. Photos I'd scanned from when I still lived at home. Me in high school plays. Me in that dumb white suit my mom made me wear to cotillion. Me with braces and a crooked smile. Me trying so hard to belong. The final image was a shot I'd taken myself. A mirror selfie from the night I left home. My bag's behind me. Eyes puffy. Smile forced. The caption, superimposed on the screen, read, "Still here." I watched my parents from the edge of the stage. My father had his jaw clenched so tight, his whole neck looked like it might snap. My mother looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. Frozen in that same navy blue armor, only now it didn't protect her from anything. And that's when I stepped back into the light. "I'm not doing this to humiliate you," I said calmly. "I'm doing it because I've spent the last decade swallowing the version of myself you forced me to leave behind. I'm done swallowing." There was silence again. But this time it buzzed with energy. The audience wasn't just watching. They were leaning in, hanging on every breath. I continued. "This bar exists because you told me I didn't have the right to exist as I am. Every light, every screw in this wall, every dollar spent. It's all built from the place you left empty when you cut me off." Then I turned to the crowd. But you know what? I'm grateful. Because without that silence, without that exile, I never would have built this. The applause started slow, cautious. Then it caught fire. Bunny bowed deeply. The screen went dark, the lights came up, and just like that, the fundraiser was over. But I wasn't finished. After the show, as guests began to murmur and scatter, some embarrassed, some visibly moved, I stepped off the stage and walked straight toward my parents. They were standing near the bar, both visibly shaken. My father looked like he wanted to say something. My mother didn't. I beat him to it. "You can leave now," I said, "but I want to give you something first." I reached into my coat pocket and handed my father a small envelope. He looked down at it like it was a weapon. "What is this?" he asked. I smiled. "An invoice." He opened it, read it, went pale. It was a billing statement from the basement addressed to Monroe Campaign Coalition. Full rental fee, staffing, a V setup, stage tech, venue surcharge. But one line item was highlighted. "Use of personal trauma for political optics, $50,000 flat fee." "You're charging us for this?" he snapped. "No," I replied. I'm charging your campaign. You didn't come here as family. You came as clients. He opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. And before you say anything about legal grounds or image control, I added, just know I've recorded tonight's event with full consent from everyone who performed. The footage belongs to me. He said nothing. My mother finally spoke, barely above a whisper. You planned this? No, I said. You did, when you walked into my bar thinking I'd still be the scared kid you left behind. Then I leaned in, just enough that only they could hear me. But if you ever try to erase me again, publicly or privately, I'll make this performance look like a love letter. I turned and walked away before they could answer. I didn't look back. Not when my father crumpled the invoice. Not when my mother finally reached for his arm like she needed steadying. Not when the donors started whispering. Not even when the first email from a journalist hit my phone 20 minutes later. But what stopped me in my tracks, what actually made my heart skip a beat, was seeing my older brother's name pop up on my phone. Missed call, followed by a text. Tyler, I need to tell you something. It wasn't just them. I stared at my brother's message like it was written in a language I didn't recognize. It wasn't just them. I didn't reply. Not right away. I just sat there in my dressing room, still in the same jeans and t-shirt I wore on stage, palms sweating, heart suddenly pounding in a way it hadn't all night. Not even during the performance. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Can we meet tomorrow? Not a call. Not a text. In person. I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe part of me was still that kid who wanted one person in the family to actually see me. The next morning, we met at a tiny diner off the strip. Not flashy. Not public enough to cause a scene. He was already there, suit jacket folded on the bench beside him, sleeves rolled, tie off. For once, he looked like my brother, not the politician in training my parents tried to mold him into. He didn't waste time. No small talk. I knew they'd cut you out of the trust, he said, eyes down on his coffee. But I didn't know how far they went until a few years ago. I said nothing. Just waited. He went on. After you left, Dad rewrote the family estate plan. Quietly. There's a clause in it now. Barring unfit heirs from future claims. Guess how that's defined? I blinked. He didn't flinch. Public displays of immoral conduct that could damage the family image. Guess who helped draft that language? I knew. I didn't want to hear it, but I asked anyway. You? He nodded, shame burning right through him. I didn't think you'd ever come back. I didn't think you'd ever matter again. And if I'm being honest, it was easier not to fight them. The silence after that was heavy. Not dramatic, just real. Then he said the thing that made my stomach drop. They're opening a PAC, using the bar event as proof that they engage with diverse communities. They're pitching it to national donors. I actually laughed. A short, bitter thing. So they erased me from their will, but they'll use my life as a prop when it suits them. He nodded. I came to tell you because I'm done protecting them. Why now? I asked. He looked at me, really looked at me, and said, because last night, you stood on that stage with nothing but your truth and a mic, and it shook the whole room. I've never seen Dad look afraid before. I didn't forgive him, but I believed him. 3 days later, the footage of the performance was leaked. Not by me, not by Bunny. It was sent anonymously to 3 reporters and 1 advocacy group I'd worked with once during the city's drag ban debate. And suddenly, my story wasn't just a Vegas whisper. It was national. Estranged son of political family turns venue into protest stage. Family values candidate outed by surprise speech. Drag show delivers blow to campaign optics. Within a week, the PAC was dissolved. Within a month, my father withdrew from his exploratory committee. Donors pulled support. Old allies distanced themselves. And my mother, she tried damage control. Released a statement about respecting all voices. But she never once said my name. which is fine, because my name? It was on the venue, on the headline, on the lips of people who had once been like me, forgotten, erased, made to believe they didn't belong. As for my brother, he kept his word. Testified, quietly but officially, when the ethics board opened an inquiry into campaign misrepresentation. He won't be running for office anytime soon. And me? I got a call from a producer in New York. They want to license the performance for a stage adaptation. Not for Broadway, for high schools, because she said, there's a Tyler in every town. Here's what I've learned. Sometimes closure doesn't come with an apology. Sometimes justice doesn't look like a courtroom. Sometimes it looks like you standing exactly where they told you didn't belong. Owning it. If you've ever been written off, pushed out, or told your truth didn't matter, I hope you know it does. And if you've ever faced your past head-on like I had to, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Thanks for sitting with me through mine. And hey, if this one hit you somewhere deep, stick around. There's more to come.